Welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. I'm your host, Deborah Chantry-Taylor. I'm a trained entrepreneurial leadership and business coach, a professional EOS implementer, and an established business owner myself. I am really passionate about helping business owners to have a better life through creating a better business. My guests have also experienced the highs and lows of business, and we want to share those learnings with you to help you avoid some of the common mistakes and also be inspired by their success. My hope is that you take something from each of these short episodes that you can put into action to help you get what you want, not only out of your business, but also your life. So welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. My name is Deborah Chantry-Taylor, and I'm here today with Nick and Jeni Clift. And Nick and Jeni have been working together for 25 years, and they're here to talk to us today about how you get to work together and still stay married. So welcome, Nick and Jeni. Thank you for coming on board.
Hi.
Hi, Deb. Thanks for having us.
So tell me a little bit about your business. What is it that DWM Solutions does?
Well, we're a managed IT service provider. So we basically help businesses maximise the utilisation, I suppose, of their IT investment. And our real purpose, I suppose, is to help the staff and the people be as productive as possible. That's what makes us kind of different to your average PC fix-it shop, if you like.
Right. Okay. Jeni, what's your sort of take on that?
So DWM, we're Australian, it doesn't really actually stand for anything, but one of our clients came up with "Don't worry, mate" years ago. So we've just run with that. So when somebody says, what does that stand for? It's like, don't worry, mate. If we're looking after you, you don't need to worry about your IT. So for us, it's as Nick said, it's more than just IT. It's about helping people use technology to solve business problems. Nick and I have been running our business now for 25 years. Both got extensive experience beyond that, so we know the trials and tribulations of running a business. So we try and bring that into what we do rather than just fixing stuff that breaks.
Sounds great. And we're going to delve a lot more into that in a moment. Just before we get started, I always like to let our listeners get a bit of an understanding of who we're talking to. So would you both mind just sharing a professional and a personal best in your life at some stage?
I think I'll do it personal first. So one of the great drivers for us starting a business was having control of our own destiny. And for me, the biggest achievement's been that we were able to create a business and an environment where we could take young people and teach them and give them a start in the world. And luckily, we're able to do that with both of our sons. So for me, a great achievement has really been the fact that we've been able to, obviously during the process of running the business, we've also had a family, and both of our boys have ended up working in the company. And our oldest son, Oscar, is still in the company, and our younger son, Sam's now working over in London for another similar type of business to us. So for me, that's my personal best win. And from the business perspective, I suppose we recently just completed a merger with Milan Industries. So that's been a big goal for us for the last 5 years, is to find another partner to help grow our business that shared our common values. And the values were the main thing about that. Yeah. It's been great.
Pretty major achievement. So what sort of size does that make your team now?
We're about 30 staff now. All across Victoria and internationally as well. So it's a big team. So we doubled the size of the business overnight effectively. So that was a big challenge.
Yep, fair enough. Jeni, what about yourself?
Nick stole both of mine. I'll have to think of something else. So definitely personal. I trained as a coach back in about 2016, 2015, somewhere around there. And I think just the personal growth from that, we kind of started reading a lot of books and doing a lot of personal development on our own, probably 20 odd years ago. But training as a coach, the change in me, much, much better person, much better able to cope with stuff that goes on in my life, and also now bring that into the business. But what I'm seeing is the relationship with the boys who are now in their early mid-20s, and just have an awesome relationship with both the boys. As Nick said, one here working in our business, the other one's in London. And business, I think a little bit along the lines of what Nick said, two of our team started with us straight out of high school, 18, 19 years old, put them through traineeships. They both actually left, one for about a year, one for a few years, and have come back. And for me, it's just that real feeling of pride. They're, absolute rock star employees, really solid performers, would do anything, all of our staff, I always say that they'd walk over hot coals for us, and the culture that we've created. But to sit back and look at, these guys and go, they've been with us a long time. They came to us really young, one straight out of uni as well, still with us. They've got married, they've had kids, and they're just part of the family.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really lovely. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I'm really intrigued because I've recently got married, as you know, and I love my husband dearly, but I could not imagine ever being in business with him. And he'd say exactly the same thing about me as well, so there's no surprise there. What on earth possessed you to go into business together?
It's funny, I actually look at in the reverse and say, why wouldn't I want to build a business and a lifestyle and our legacy with anybody but Nick? Why would I want to do that with somebody else?
Yeah, fair enough. Nick?
Yes, that's true. Well, just for the record, we have been married for 30 years,
yes,
and we've been working together for 25 years. And I think it is awesome, and it's a bit unique, but like we have the same passion, and we would go for hours and hours. Like this is the first time today I've spoken to Jeni. So even though we've worked together for 25 years, we have different roles, and I think that's the secret is don't get in each other's business. Like You've got your role, I've got my role. When issues pop up, you talk about it, but that generally happens at home, not at work. And as long as you've got a vision of where you're going to, that everything else, all the little bumps in the road can come up and be overcome. It's really having that big picture of where are we trying to get to in the business and in our lives. And that's what keeps it together and keeps it neat. And I agree with Jeni. Like if I had to spend, 70, 80 hours a week with someone in the business, why wouldn't I want to spend it with my partner? I love you, Milan, but not as much as Jeni.
We'll catch up with Milan in a later episode, won't we? So we'll ask what his opinion is. Yeah. Okay, cool. So
we've been able to use the business to travel extensively. So, back in the olden days when we could actually travel, we'd have a week's conference in, 4 or 5 days, whatever, in the US. We'd go to Mexico for a week and we'd come back to another conference for another few days and then come home. So, and to be able to do that together and, go to conferences and, just constantly looking for ways to improve ourselves, have those experience, again, love you, Milan, but not doing that with you.
So you said that you've got the quite distinct roles. Are you actually co-founders, though? Did you start the business together?
Yes, we did, yeah.
Okay.
And,
sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's kind of started off with, as a tech, I was the engineer. We had a contract to deliver some services to regional Victoria, and I kind of ran the engineering side, and Jeni ran all the finance and the whole admin, everything like that. And we quickly developed the team up to about 20 staff. And then we brought some partners in, and that didn't go so well, so we kind of had a reboot. And it was about the time, in about the mid-2000s, 2008, we decided to bring a coach into our business. And I think it was actually for one of the staff before for us. And we kind of went around this path, and we ended up joining a peer group, and we got a business coach in to help us with some stuff. And that's when things got really interesting, because that was like Jeni kind of, her role dramatically changed. Like the coach basically said to us, you guys are not going anywhere because you have what I call a love fest. There were kind of 3 partners in the business, and we all worked as leaders and managers.
Not holding each other accountable.
Yeah, and there was no hierarchy and there was no accountability.
Yeah.
So he basically just went around the room, and we were just all kind of not wanting to make any decisions. And he says, righto, I've had enough of this. Jeni, you're the new general manager. Nick, you're in charge of sales, and Rod, you're in charge of service. And that was it. And it was like a bombshell. And Jeni wasn't expecting that. None of us were expecting any of that stuff. But that was the start of setting us up to be even more successful. So I went from being the kind of managing director, running everything, and Jeni helping me, to now she's the boss and I had to report to her. So that was a challenge.
Yeah.
How long did you sulk for?
2 years.
I guess, yeah. So how did that feel for you though, Jenny? Like suddenly being thrust into, GM, that's a fairly meaty role, right?
Oh, absolutely. And, we had 20-something staff at the time. Nick actually sulked for 2 years. By his own admission, he used to say it was 1 year, and then after a while he said, actually, I think it was 2. And our other partner was even worse. So in the end, we decided to part ways with him. We'd brought a coach in prior to work with a member of the team. And, I don't know why, things happen the way they do, but then I actually started working with her because I had to make that real mindset change from, I'd always looked at myself as really not adding much value to the business. And honestly, I thought I did all the shit that nobody else wanted to do. Well, the boys went and did the real work. And that was all about me and the way that I thought it probably wasn't what anybody else thought. And Nick said to me since, you're the one who kept everything going, but that's just not the way that I saw it. So I started working with the coach to really, what's a general manager? How do I step into that role? How do I manage these two people that are saying, yes, we think you can, but their actions are saying otherwise. So that was a real transition for me and I guess part of my real personal growth to be able to hold myself accountable, to hold my two partners, one of whom I'm married to, accountable, and then flow that down into the team. And I think that's really when the business went from being a standard run-of-the-mill tech company run by a tech to, for me, it's all about people. And we really started to transition that into that sort of people-driven culture IT company, which is really quite different to what most are, particularly then back in 2010.
So what tools did you use to kind of help? Because it's got a fairly significant change again to go from being a typical kind of IT company to being people-led. So what tools did you use or how did you deal with that?
We tried lots of different things. So we love going to conferences. It gives us the ability to travel, but it's also, what do other people do? And the IT industry is really unusual in that we love to help each other. We'll, tell each other how we do things and share experiences and tools. So we tried different things and some worked, some didn't. And then probably 3 years ago now, we're at a conference. And as we always do, Nick went to one session, I went to another one. And because we've been looking for something that gave us the ability to get out of operational roles, we'd always had this dream of being an employee-led business. For Nick and I to be able to get out of our employees' way and let them run the shop. And so we went off to different sessions and met afterwards, and Nick's gone, oh, my God, we're going to have to try this EOS thing, because the session I went to, the guy was talking about EOS and the book Traction, and I went, this book? The person that I'd sat next to in a completely different session, not about EOS, he and I, the guy that I sat next to, we started chatting before it started and about, stuff. And he came up to me after the session and he said, this is the book. You've got to get this book. You've got to do this. So we went, okay, it's a sign, and came home and then sort of went on the search to find an EOS implementer. So that was the big change. And now I'm out completely. I contract a couple of days a week for people and culture. So coaching, development, training, that sort of thing. And Nick is now completely non-operational. He's our visionary, and he's literally just gone into that role and now trying to figure out what does a visionary do to add value to the business, because it's really easy to kind of go back into what you know, which is sales for him, and, just get busy doing stuff. And then, a month later you're back into the trenches, which is where neither of us want to be.
Yeah. So for those who don't know EOS, it's the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It kind of focuses on those 6 key areas of your business. And you traditionally have sort of a visionary who's that high-level person who is, taking the business forward, looking what can be done, looking for those big opportunities. And then you've got the integrator being the next level down. So do you have an integrator now in the business?
Yeah, we do. So we went through the merger back in July, and we had a member of the team as our integrator, but we've actually just swapped some roles around again. Quite a big business now, as Nick said, 30 staff. So Milan, our business partner, is our integrator. So do you want to sort of talk about his role?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's a key challenge and a key success factor is actually having people in the right roles.
Yeah.
And those roles and those people change over time. So there's an old saying that what got you here is not what's going to get you there. And it's so true. And I mean, the great thing about the structure we've got in place with EOS is that we review that every quarter. So our leadership team has changed dramatically every quarter in the last 9 months, because we put the two companies together and said, right, everybody's in.
Yep.
And then that filtered out, and there was some roles that kind of obviously didn't need two people doing the same job, so that changed. And then there was other roles where that didn't make sense, or that didn't fit their skill set, and it's just an evolution over time. So this last quarter, Milan's taken on the integrator role, and he obviously ran his own business, Milan Industries, and did everything, so he knows it intimately. Yeah. And he's much more systems orientated and data driven than what I am. I go off gut feel and what solves problems, not necessarily technically stuff. So
it's shiny object.
I might have the occasional shiny object, yeah. That's something interested. But it's a good process, and regardless of whether it's EOS or something else, you definitely need to have a system and a methodology on how to help people be the best they can possibly be. And that's what the challenge for us in our business is, not necessarily finding technology and finding clients, it's finding good people. Yeah. And sometimes you can't find them, you have to build them. And so having a process where you can bring someone in at a level and then know that they've got a growth path to get to the next level is super important. And we've got a number of staff on our team now that have, like Jenny said before, started straight out of school, and we're recruiting right now for people as well. And it's really exciting to see new people come on and go, oh, wow, you guys have got all these systems and processes. I can see where to go and I can see how to be successful. This is fantastic.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because, Jenny, you're also an EOS implementer, and as I am. And so we now work with other businesses helping them to implement this system. I don't know about you, but I'm always a little bit gobsmacked by some of these sort of, quite large established businesses have been going for quite a long time, and yet I'm missing some of those basic kind of things that can really make a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely. I run some mastermind groups, and I'm constantly amazed at the lack of knowledge of some business owners, the lack of systems and structure, and they've got so much stuff in their head, and and I know we've fallen into this trap before. We employ smart people. Why don't they know what to do and do the right thing? Well, because they can't see into our heads and know what that is, and we're not able to articulate that. So something like EOS gets all of that stuff out of your head into a system, into a document, into processes and procedures and policies and all of those sort of things that people can then look at, understand. If they don't, they can ask questions, and it becomes scalable. But there are so many, and we're seeing now, particularly after COVID in our industry, of lots and lots of baby boomers who built this business that might have been going for 20 or 30 years, and that's been their nest egg, their retirement fund. But because everything's still in their head and they are integral, the whole business revolves around them. They can't sell it.
Yeah.
And that superannuation, that's their retirement, is actually worth nothing. And it's heartbreaking. We've had these conversations with a number of people who've said, would you buy a business? This is what we think it's worth. And we've looked at it and said, well, it's actually not worth anything, or, maybe, 50 grand. And they're thinking millions. And, so something like EOS gives a business that structure that then actually makes the business run. You can get out and get, as your podcast, have a life. We can go away for a month and nothing breaks. We had a month of 5 weeks in Europe, Christmas a couple of years ago, and we got 3 phone calls. One of them was Nick's dad. They don't need us, which is exactly what we want, because that structure, that system, just means that the business can run without you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I guess that means it kind of allows you to get on with the things that you're really good at and really love doing, rather than all the stuff that often as business owners we're doing everything, right?
Yeah, and becoming an EOS implementer.
Yeah. So what has been the biggest kind of challenge that you guys have had as a husband and wife working together?
I'll talk about one. Years ago, I went to a vendor event, and Nick was supposed to attend, and I think he was actually sick, which is unusual. So I went with 4 of our staff, and the 5 of us walked in, and the vendors said, "Oh, great, you're here. Where's Nick?" And we said, "Well, there's 5 of us. Does that not make up for Nick?" And they said, "No, not really." Nick was the business. When everybody thought DWM, it was Nick. And I always kind of felt, completely sort of overshadowed and, a bit of, played second fiddle. And then Nick went to an event at Christmas time, just gone, and walked in, and they all went, "Oh, Nick, where's Jeni?" So for me, that was always a real challenge of nobody saw me. I was kind of invisible, and I think a lot of women in husband and wife businesses are, you're perceived as the bookkeeper, the one who makes cakes on people's birthday, cleans the office when everybody's gone home. That's the sort of perception. So for me, that was always a real challenge. I always felt that my surname, maybe I should have gone back to my maiden name so people didn't know that we were married, so that I actually sort of was seen a bit more valued more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that affect your relationship? Because I wouldn't mind betting that there may have been a little bit of sulking going on with Jeni.
No, it's been perfect all the way along.
Oh, okay.
No, it's really interesting because it's the key thing for us, I suppose, is there's always been ups and downs, but we've been, whether it's by design or by good fortune or luck or whatever, but we've never both been down at the same time.
Right.
So whenever something's gone wrong or we've lost a big customer or a deal didn't go through or I felt like I'd screwed up or a key staff member left or something, I'd be moping around and then she'd be fine. Like, okay, come on, we just got to focus on this. What do we need to do? And vice versa. If something else happened and Jeni was down, then I was up. So luckily we've never been both down at the same time. And I think that comes about having a shared vision and shared goals and what are we doing this for? We have definitely always had the attitude that we're not going to work in our own business for a job. For those out there that are thinking of starting their own business, especially with their partner, you work twice as hard for half as much money, but you do get to have control over what you're doing. And the upside, the benefits are amazing when you get it right. And for us, we've had an amazing lifestyle and we've lived a fantastic life with our kids all growing up through school and now they're in their 20s and they're independent off doing their own thing. That for us was our number one goal. And now we're approaching our middle ages. The challenge is to reset that big goal and that big focus on what's next. So we had 3 or 4 years ago, we set this goal to do a merger and bring our businesses together with somebody else. So we've kind of achieved the first part of that. But now we're on a more of a strategic business growth strategy versus a family lifestyle strategy is what we had for the first 20 years. So you do go through these cycles, and if there's anything I've learnt over the years, it's make sure you're on the same page. Because as a good technical male, I always want to fix the problem. And that was probably my biggest learning is when Jeni and I learned to have a new kind of language, which is shut up and listen, I'm just venting.
Yes.
Do not try and fix anything. When we got that language right, it was so much better for everybody.
And I think I've actually said to him, I don't care if you're not listening, just look like you're listening.
Yeah, it's funny because there's obviously some quite distinct differences between males and females in the way that we do communicate. So it's good that you've been able to recognise that and find a way to deal with it. Do you use the whole EOS stuff for your family life as well?
No, we've always been pretty good at setting goals and having things that, and as when we sort of reflect back, say, the times when we've been really focused and really, kicked goals and got stuff happening is when we've been really clear on working towards something. And the times that we've been kind of lost and drifted and really not achieved very much is when we haven't had those goals or, we've reached something and then haven't reset them. So we probably have by default, but we don't use it we don't have our vision traction organizer for ourselves for the next 3 years. I think we probably, right now where we are, we probably actually need to do that because we've got some pretty big plans for what we want to achieve over the next couple of years. But I think we've kind of done it by default.
And I think the 3-year picture, when you start to paint the 3-year picture, that brings into aspects of where do you want to be, what do you want to be doing, doesn't it, as well? Yeah. So it's great to see that you're continuing to grow. Can't wait to see how it goes going forward. Before we finish up, I'd love for you to share 3 tips with our listeners that could actually help them and that they can go away and have action straight away.
Yeah, so I think based on the theme of this podcast, which is working together, the number one thing is to never ever assume the other person understands what you mean. And it's specifically important with your partner, but it's also very important with staff as well. So it's very easy for someone with my personality. I've got a great idea. I've told you what this great idea is. Just go and make it happen. And they might go, oh, yeah, that's a great idea, but have no plan on how to execute. And vice versa. Jenny can be telling me something and I'm going, yeah, whatever. And I haven't really understood what she wants. So there's an expectation. What was it? I heard the other day, disappointment equals expectation minus reality or something. It's like, I didn't even know you expected me to do that. So how could I ever be successful? So just get clarity on what you're doing. And if you're not sure, don't be scared to put your hand up and ask the question. I mean, that's the number one thing I've learned.
And I'd say work to your strengths. It's much easier to work to your strengths than try and fix somebody's weaknesses. So really, particularly as a couple, Nick's thing is sales, mine's people, and with our merger, Milan's is tech. So perfect for our industry. And we're really clear on, I look after the people, Nick's head of sales, and Milan looks after the tech side of the business. So understand what those strengths are and stick to those and stay out of other people's business.
Yeah, perfect. One final tip?
Have fun. You don't want to start a business and have it be the dreadful job you don't want to turn up to. I mean, life is truly too short.
Yeah.
And I have definitely, there's a balancing edge there. Like I think at some points during our journey, we've probably lived too much of in the present and had too much of a good life, like right now and here with our kids, and we've done lots of stuff and not had that long-term planning. So there is a balance, but you don't want to be just grinding away and drudging away at something you don't like, because there is a way to fix it. And that's what I truly love about the whole EOS thing is it's 90-day sprints. And if it's not working, change it. Don't keep doing it for 3 years. And I used to think that you could, I was really bad at this. You could find a problem, solve it, and set something up, put it in place, and then forget about it. And then all of a sudden it's 3 years down the track or 4 years down the track, and what worked 4 years ago is completely irrelevant now. So, and especially like you think about the last 12 months, what happened in 2019 didn't work in 2020, and that's not going to, what happened in 2020 is not going to work in 21 because we're just changing so quickly. So just constantly questioning the norm, I suppose, and never ever it's not set and forget.
Yeah, that's perfect. Great. Okay, so, thank you. We've come to the end of our sort of 20, 25 minutes, so I really appreciate your time. If people want to get hold of you at DWM, how do they get hold of you?
So website, www.dwm.com.au. Emails are jenny.clift@dwm.com.au and nick.clift@dwm.com.au. Both on LinkedIn, both on Facebook. Nick checks Facebook about twice a year, maybe once a year, but probably LinkedIn is the best. Unfortunately, my mother couldn't spell when she named me Jennifer with one N, so the spelling of my name is Jeni. So makes it difficult, but lots of places to get hold of us.
That's fantastic. Hey, look, I really appreciate you giving me your time today and sharing with the listeners. I'm looking forward. We're going to get your partner on board, and Jenny, you and I are going to chat about the EOS stuff as well. So we'll see you again. But again, it is Friday after a very, very long day, so I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks. Lovely to be here.
Thanks a lot, Deb.
Thanks again for joining us on Better Business, Better Life with me, your host, Deborah Chantry-Taylor. If you enjoyed what you heard, then please subscribe to this podcast and let us help you to get what you want out of business and life. Each week we will release a new 20-minute episode which will give you 3 takeouts to put into action immediately on one of the 6 key areas that can take your business from good to great. These short podcasts are designed to be listened to in their entirety on the way to or from work or in your lunch break. The podcast is supported by free resources, templates and useful tools which you can find at deborahchantry-taylor.com.
This podcast was proudly produced by NZ Audio Editors. For all your editing services, you can find us on the World Wide Web at www.nzaudioeditors.com.